How's it going, everyone? James Lynch here with my co-host Adam Martin. We're going to be breaking down UFC 263, just the pay-per-view portion of the card that's going to be taking place this Saturday in Glendale, Arizona. Before we get into it, Adam, how are you today?
Doing great, James. Glad to be back with you, man. I'm really excited to talk about this card with you. It's a great card. 14 fights, but we'll focus on the main card today. But yeah, it's an awesome card, man. The first non-title, non-main event 5-round fight, and then 2 title fights. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, does it, James?
It doesn't. And, the first fight to kick off the pay-per-view is an absolute banger. We got Paul Craig and Jamal Hill. We're going to start there. Jamal Hill on most books, the favorite in this one. I was curious which way you're leaning in this one. Craig, a submission specialist. Jamal Hill's looked outstanding. I know he had COVID, but he's back here. Really big opportunity here for, Sweet Dreams Hill in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, like you said, Jamal Hill's a pretty big favorite, James. He's, I'm just looking at the odds right now. Jamal Hill minus 280, so he's a pretty big favorite, one of the bigger ones on the card, but I kind of feel like it's justified, to be honest with you, James. Yeah. Like, the guy's really good at striking. There's no doubt about it. Very, very good striker. He's coming off a win over OSP. That's like the gatekeeper in the division. That showed to me that he is like a top 15 guy, and I think potentially top 10. I like the fact he's a little bit younger here than Paul Craig. He's a little bit taller, a little bit longer. The question is, can he keep the fight standing? That's the question, James. Because if it goes to the ground, I'm pretty sure Paul Craig will submit him. Paul Craig submits most guys or finishes them on the ground. I just think that what I've seen from his takedown defense, it is good enough to keep it standing. Like, he looks like he has a really good sprawl, and I think he'll be able to keep it standing, James. So I actually like Jamal Hill here. I know he's a big favorite, but I expect him to get the job done, guys. I think he probably wins by first-round knockout, to be honest with you. Paul Craig's been knocked out a few times, James. Alonzo Menafield knocked him out. I think that this guy can get him out of there, too. So my pick's going to be Jamal Hill, first-round TKO.
Yeah, I like Hill by knockout as well, and I'm glad you referenced the Menafield fight because I think it could play out very similarly, and I think Jamal Hill is a much better version of Alonzo Menafield. He's faster, he's younger, he's taller. Jamal Hill does things in the cage that you don't see other light heavyweights do, and I think this is a great opportunity for him on this huge card to really shine. I think the UFC knows that. That's why they're putting this fight together. I do wonder about his ground game. I don't know if Craig can necessarily submit him because we haven't really seen Jamal Hill on the ground. We don't know what his ground game's like. I spoke to Jamal ahead of this fight. He assures me that his ground game is up to snuff, but I mean, we're talking about one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in that division. So that is going to be the big question. Can Craig take him down? I don't think he will. It stays standing. Jamal Hill takes this one. You like first round? I'll go second round knockout. I think he figures out his timing. He's, he had COVID as well. So, just maybe, a bit of a slow start in this one. We'll see, but I really like Jamal Hill to get the knockout. All right. Really interesting fight in the welterweight division. Damian Maia, Bilal Muhammad. Right now, the odds makers have, on a lot of books right now, about 2-1 favorite here for Bilal Muhammad in this fight. I'm seeing minus 230 on a bunch of lines. Who do you like here? The aging Brazilian or the up-and-comer Bilal Muhammad?
Yeah, it's tough because, generally, James, I just can't bet on 40-plus fighters anymore. I feel like they almost always lose, especially in the UFC. If you look at the guys that are 40-plus, they almost always don't get their hand raised. So just based on that alone, it's hard to back Maia here. But I do think that, the odds could be a little closer, James, because Maia, you watch every fight he has, man, he gets the fight to the ground. Even the Gilbert Burns fight, which is his last fight, he got knocked out in it, but he was able to take Gilbert Burns down and get his back at one point. Now, Bilal's obviously a very good wrestler. We know that, James. He's obviously, I think, got the better striking in this fight. I think he's probably got the better cardio. Everything pretty much gives an advantage to Bilal. But, again, we thought the same thing about, when Jorge Masvidal fought Maia, and he was still able to get his back and take him to the ground, right? Maia's just able to get guys back. So, James, it's a tough one, I think. I'm leaning a little bit towards Bilal still just because he is the much younger guy. He's 11 years younger. I think he's more in his prime. But Damian Maia, I think, is being a little bit overlooked here, James. I got to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are just forgetting how dominant he is with his grappling. So I think he's definitely got a chance to pull off the upset. I'm still going to back Bilal, but I think this fight's pretty close, man.
I'm glad you brought that up. I want people to be careful about this fight because Maia, this does seem like a fight where he could surprise a little bit. If you look at Bilal Muhammad's record, who has he fought that's a really good ground specialist? No one really. And I know he trains, he's been training for years at Rufus Sport. I know they work on their ground game. I know he's, trains with a guy like Gerald Mershart who does have really good ground game as well. But Damian Maia is a different animal. I mean, this is a guy submitting people that you just don't think is going to get submit here. So I do want to warn people. Again, I know Bilal should win this fight. I think it does stay standing. The other thing, Adam, is the fact that Damian's going to be a little bit bigger. Remember, he used to fight at middleweight back in the day. He's 6'1". He's got, I think, a little bit of a reach advantage over Bilal as well. So if Bilal can't, utilize that, if he can't get on the inside and Maia's able to keep him at bay, it could get very interesting. Now, I have seen a lot of people, and I know Bilal's a pretty popular guy. He's got the, show on the Anakin Florian network. He's a fan favorite. We love him on Twitter, but I feel like that also blinds the bettors a little bit. I've seen some people talk about Bilal knocking Maia out. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bilal will likely win a decision if it does go, past the first round. Bilal's not really known as a knockout guy. You look at a guy like Diego Lima, who's been knocked out plenty of times. Bilal couldn't finish him, right? So that's sort of where I look at that as well. The other thing I'll mention, which kind of goes against what I just said, is this the beginning of the end for Maia in terms of his chin? Because he did get knocked out by Gilbert Burns. You have to go all the way back, I think, to the Marquardt fight where he got knocked out. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen him sort of hit like that. So this may be the fight where his chin goes out. So again, the thing I want to highlight here is I am picking Bilal, but I do want to warn people this is almost could be a trap, I think, for bettors here for Bilal Muhammad. So
I agree completely, James. Like, I had to watch the fight back with Burns because all I remembered was the knockout. But when I watched it back, he took his back, and if that wasn't Gilbert Burns, if it was just an average welterweight, he probably would have subbed him out. So just because Damian's 43 doesn't mean he sucks, guys. I still think he's got something in the tank. And it's not that long ago, James, where he beat Ben Askren by technical submission. He beat Anthony Rocco Martin, who's a lot younger. And honestly, Anthony Rocco Martin kind of is like Bilal Muhammad. They're kind of close, if you ask me. So I think this fight's super close. Honestly, like, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Damian pulled it off. So be careful, guys, if you're going to bet on this one.
All right, you referenced it earlier. Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz, first main card fight in UFC history. That's 5 rounds. It's not a main event and not a title fight, so really interesting there. Edwards is a huge favorite. He's actually the biggest betting favorite on this card. I've seen Sun Limes getting him as close as -600. I think he was -590. I was looking the other day. If the line goes the way it is, Adam, I don't know if you know this, but Nate Diaz will close as the biggest underdog in his career. Even the first McGregor fight, he was not as this much counted out, so to speak. And it's understandable here, right? There's plenty of reasons to like Leon Edwards here. He's been more active overall. If you look at just the overall career, he's on an 8-fight unbeaten streak. He's younger. He's going to be a little bit taller in this fight as well. I still like Leon Edwards here. I just don't think he's going to get the finish. I think Nate Diaz has proven time and time again he's durable. I know some people have questions about, Diaz getting cut in this fight like he did in the Masvidal fight. Everything I've heard is that Diaz fixed that. I think he went and saw a doctor, got that cleared up a little bit. So I don't think we'll see a cut. Plus, Leon Edwards is not a guy to really slice people open in his fights. So I wouldn't really put that as a factor. To me, the only way Diaz wins this fight is if he either outpaces Edwards, which I don't see happening, or he potentially gets a submission here because we haven't really seen Edwards tested that much on the ground. However, he has fought a ground specialist in Gunnar Nelson and didn't have any issues there. So I think Edwards is going to win a decision. I'd be pretty surprised if Diaz pulls this off just with the lack of activity. And also, you got to look at the fact that Diaz over and over again, whenever he fights a guy that has good takedowns like Leon Edwards, it doesn't fare too well for him. So Leon's always got that in his back pocket. But I think Leon Edwards goes out there and wins this fight. But I'm not laying -590. I would look at maybe the decision prop for Leon instead.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said, James. I got to be honest. I remember when the line came out and it was like -400. I thought that was high. So at -600, I think it's pretty high. I'm with you. It's just like I really want to bet on Nate because he's such a big underdog. I really, really want to do it. I want to back him here, but I can't. I just can't, James. Like he's so inactive. He's fought twice in the last 5 years. He looked terrible against Masvidal. I watched that fight back. He took a lot of damage in that fight, James. I think it was a bad stoppage. I think that doctor made a mistake. He should have let that fight continue, but he got knocked down a couple of times in that fight. It looks like his chin's going a little bit, James. Got to be honest with you. Age 36. This is not Nate Diaz from 5 years ago. He's 31 when he fought Conor. He's 36 now, James. Like, that's a big difference, And he's a guy who's taken a lot of damage in his career. I understand he took time off, obviously. But, even with 2 years off, James, I still think this is a bad fight for him. Like I said, I was looking for a reason to back the guy. I can't. I think Edwards is better everywhere. I think he's probably the better striker at this point. I think he's the better wrestler. Submissions, I would obviously give to Nate. I'll give Nate the submissions. I think I'll probably give Nate the cardio, but Leon's cardio is good too. It's not like he's got bad cardio. I'm just looking for a way from the win. If it was a guy with bad cardio, I could see it, James. But with a guy like Leon who's proven he can go 5 rounds because he did it now in the UFC a couple times against Cerrone, against RDA, and looked fine in those fights and won every round of those fights, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is going to be Leon's fight. I just wish the odds were, more reasonable because I think -600 is a little excessive. I think it's kind of giving Nate no respect. I think Nate's got a small chance to win the fight, James, by outpacing him, like you said, maybe in the last couple rounds he's able to just throw volume or something. But everything I've seen is leading me to believe Leon Edwards wins this fight. And I'm with you, James. I think a decision too. That's the way I'm looking. But the cuts actually are something that are concerning me a little bit. I got to be honest with you. There was this report a month ago that this fight was supposed to happen at UFC 262, and Diaz suffered a minor injury in training. What was that minor injury?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't even think of that. It could have been a cut.
Nothing came out of that, and I'm thinking maybe it was a cut. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe he suffered a cut. And I watched that Pettis fight back, the fight where he actually won and looked good. He actually got cut in that fight too, James. So him and his brother Nick, as you know, some serious scar tissue on their face. You would hope that surgery would fix it, but I'm not sure, James. So I think the cut stoppage is definitely a possibility, but I would favor Edwards by decision more than not.
Co-main event. It's one of a few of the rematches on this card. We've got Deiveson Figueiredo taking on Brandon Moreno. Right now, Deiveson Figueiredo about a 2-1 favorite. I'm going to keep this short at him. I like Deiveson Figueiredo in this fight. He's got power. He's bigger than Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno's saving grace in that last fight was his chin. He was able to survive. I think that could possibly happen here as well. What made that fight a draw was Deiveson making a mistake. I don't think he does that in this fight. I think he's going to land harder shots. Moreno's always got a great chance, but I wouldn't even say he has a puncher's chance. He doesn't have a lot of finishes here, and Davison's not a guy that's going to lie down. And you look at who Davison's finished: Joseph Benavidez twice, Alex Perez. This is a guy that goes out there and does not like getting paid by the hour. So give me Deiveson Figueiredo, probably by decision or maybe a late finish because Moreno's just super tough. But I don't think there's any difference between what we saw in the last fight. Like, I never felt like Deiveson was in that much danger in the last fight. I know Brandon did land some shots, but I think Davison's the much better fighter here, and I think he's going to prove it again on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. I think Davison's the better fighter too. In that first fight, I thought he still won, even with the point deduction. I still thought he won 4 rounds, and he should have won the decision. One of the judges did score for him. The other two thought that Moreno won 2 rounds. So with the point deduction, it was a draw. So I thought that was a bad call. I don't mind them running it back. It was obviously an amazing fight. David, before that fight, James, had just been smashing everyone. Like, a guy like Alex Perez is a good fighter, and he got through him in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Joseph Benavidez absolutely smashed him twice. Tim Elliott, these guys are tough, and this guy goes in there and finishes them. So he's just dangerous everywhere. Good submissions, good knockout power. He's proven he can go 5 rounds too now. He is a little bit older in this fight. He's 33, but I still feel like he's in the prime of his career, so I'm not too worried about the age difference. I do like Moreno as a fighter, and I do see the improvements he's making, especially, James, with the grappling. I think that's the one area of the game. Remember he beat Brandon Royval. He dominated him on the ground, and there was an injury that led to the finish, but he still was dominating the fight.
I think he was on his way to winning that fight regardless. Yeah.
I think so too, and I think that if he wants to win this fight, he's going to grapple. I think if he stays standing, though, James, like the last fight, I actually think that Deiveson might knock him out this time, because I think that you take that much punishment, your chin's never the same. And I'm actually leaning a little bit towards under 4.5 rounds this time around, James.
Good play.
Yeah, I'm thinking of finishing this one, man. I'm thinking Deiveson by TKO.
Yeah, no, I like that for sure. All right, main event, Israel Adesanya, Marvin Vettori, the rematch. Israel Adesanya, the favorite. I think the only question really is, how is Adesanya going to bounce back from that loss to Jan Blachowicz? I know it was a different weight class, but still, I see people saying he was exposed in that fight. I mean, are you ignoring the big weight difference in that one? I mean, I think that was part of the reason that Adesanya lost that fight. Nonetheless, we got the rematch here. Who are you liking in this one? And then I'll give you my pick after.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a super competitive fight. I really do. I think Marvin Vettori is a guy that a lot of us, including myself, have just kind of never thought was a championship caliber fighter. But I've really changed my tune on this guy after the last couple of fights. I think that Jack Hermanson fight really opened my eyes to how good this guy is and how improved he is. And then obviously what he did to Kevin Holland was very impressive. So I've been nothing but impressed by this guy. And I got to be honest, James, I watched that first fight back a few times in preparation for this weekend, and it was super close. I still would give it to Adesanya because he won the first 2 rounds, but the third round did go to Vettori, and he landed several takedowns in that round and was controlling the fight in the ground. And since then, he's just gotten better with the wrestling. Adesanya is obviously moving back down to middleweight, much more successful in this weight class, 9-0, perfect record in the weight class. But he is coming off a loss where, again, the wrestling became an issue. And I think that is a problem in this game, James. I do think that there is a takedown defense issue. So I know it's crazy, but I'm going to go with Vettori here as a big underdog. So I'm kind of leaning his way. I think it's a super close fight, so I'll take the plus 200 money. And I think he's going to win a decision. I think either way it's going to go the distance. I could definitely see Adesanya outputting him, but at plus 215, I'll take a shot on the dog, James.
Finally, we got some disagreement here. I knew it was going to come one of these days. I'm going the other way. A lot of what I look at is the fact that the level of competition. Adesanya talked about this with Aaron Bronstetter this week about some of the guys that Vettori's fought since they first competed. And by the way, you referenced the first fight. Both guys are different. I mean, Vettori's tremendously improved, but so is Adesanya. I mean, he went on to win the middleweight title. He knocked out Robert Whittaker. I mean, his striking's on another level. Yes, the wrestling is a concern, but I don't even think it gets there. You look at how many fighters at middleweight have tried to take him down. They haven't been successful. And I think Adesanya has, sort of worked on that area of his game, not against Blachowicz, but I think, I don't think he thought that he'd be a lot stronger than Blachowicz. And that's not what happened in that fight. So I think people need to, kind of look at that as well. And then, the Hermansson fight, I'll give him credit for that. That was a great win. Hermansson also broke his orbital bone early in that fight and wasn't able to really capitalize since then. So again, Vettori's the one who did the damage. I'm not, discrediting that, but I do wonder if Hermansson didn't have that issue, if that fight might have been a little bit closer. The Kevin Holland fight, he won, but it's Kevin Holland. I mean, this is a guy who lost to Derek Brunson the fight before that. You can't really put too much stock into that victory, whereas you look at who Adesanya's fighting, it's nothing but the top of the division. You've got Romero. Paulo Costa was a super impressive win. Whitaker. Like, I think Adesanya is going to keep this fight standing, and I think he's going to beat Vettori even better than he did the first time. It's 5 rounds. I think Adesanya is going to go out there, keep this as a striking clinic. Marvin's a pretty emotional guy, a pretty prideful guy. I don't think he's going to want to take Adesanya down because I think he's going to want to show the fans that, look, I can beat this guy at his own game, and I think that's the wrong approach. I think Adesanya wins a pretty decisive decision. Maybe he knocks him out, Adam. I don't know. I mean, if you look at who Vettori has fought recently, not a lot of knockout artists there. I know Holland has some knockout wins, but he's not really a power guy like Adesanya is, so to speak. So I could see a knockout there as well. So I'm going Adesanya on this one. We'll have lots to talk about, I'm sure, next week when we do talk. If you end up getting this one, and I'll give you full credit, man, if Vettori gets this one off. But I just think that Adesanya is a very, very solid fighter, and I don't see him faltering in this one. So we'll see.
And I want to mention this quickly. It's how ironic is it that they're fighting in the same arena that they fought in 3 years ago, Gila River
Didn't
Arena,
know that.
where the
Interesting.
Suns and the Coyotes play. Yeah, it was on the Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje card. It was on the prelims of that card. So same arena, James. 3 years later, I think it's going to be a close fight. I'm looking forward to this card, though. I think we didn't get a chance, obviously, to talk about the prelims, but it's a great card. Like, there's a lot of good preliminary card fights too. So you guys should be excited about this one. I think it's an awesome card.
Make sure you hit that like button on this video, hit the subscribe button. Spectation Sports, go to the website, spectationsports.com. We're always putting on new content every single day here. Follow me on Twitter at Lynch on Sports. Follow him on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. We'll see you soon for another breakdown. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you guys very soon. Enjoy the fights this weekend.